Hello, fellow classmates, teaching assistants, and Dr. Henry. Today I'll be discussing the islands of Tuvalu and several of the environmental issues facing the nation and how it's affecting their island life today. My name is Bonnie Seraphine. Thank you for your time, and I hope you find my presentation informative. Tuvalu won independence from Great Britain October 1st, 1978. Formerly part of the Ellice Islands, it's ranked the fourth smallest country in the world and consists of 9 islands. 3 are reef islands and 6 are true atolls. The 3 reef islands are Niulakita, Niutau, and Nanamanga. The 6 true atolls are Nukalele, Funafuti, Vaiatupu, Nukafatau, Nui, and Nanamea. Funafuti is the capital, and it's the largest atoll. It's the most populated of the 9 islands, with approximately 5,000 residents, while Niutau is the least populated island with just over 200 residents. Tuvalu encompasses less than 10 square miles. The name Tuvalu translates to 8 standing together. So why not 9 standing together? Because Niulakita was not continuously inhabited. During the late 19th century, it had been under private ownership and changed hands a few times. Niulakita has only been continuously inhabited since the 1950s and was not part of ancient Tuvalu. The island is now inhabited by natives of Niutau. Tuvaluan culture is based on a chiefly social system. Their society depicts strong community organization, traditions of reciprocity, and a culture of sharing. Villages are organized on communal rather than clan basis and have a customary system of social welfare. Tuvaluan is their language, along with English. The one exception is the island of Nui, where many people are of Micronesian descent and mostly from the nation of Kiribati. Being settled between the 14th and 17th centuries, it is believed that Polynesians spread out from Samoa and Tonga into the Tuvaluan atolls. Tuvalu served as a stepping stone to migration in the outlier communities of Melanesia and Micronesia. Between 1850 and 1875, the islands were raided by ships, forcibly recruiting plantation workers for South America, Fiji, Hawaii, Tahiti, and Queensland. Tuvalu, along with other small remote nations, have long had a relationship with migration, first by force, now for survival and relationship building. Migration of family members provides security and financial resources. With the continuous flow of remittance, relationships are maintained by transnational kinship networks. With increasing awareness of climate change affecting the nation, migration serves as a safety net for not only economic opportunities, but access to new living arrangements away from rising seas. These are major push factors encouraging Tuvaluan migration. Climate change has been directly associated with human migration, and naturally, environmental issues and events force people to leave their homes and move to safer ground. But Tuvalu has no safer ground. We are now faced with a new category of refugee, the environmental refugee. Tuvalu has been active on the international front, raising awareness of the effects of climate change on their nation. On September 5, 2000, Tuvalu officially joined the United Nations to become its 189th member and its second smallest nation by population. In June 2001, Tuvalu officially opened its office at UN headquarters in New York City. This has given them a presence at the UN as well as the opportunity to advocate on behalf of the nation's interest on an international level. Tuvalu has worked relentlessly to gain the attention of the world to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in an effort to thwart rising sea levels. They continue to use all resources available both regionally and internationally, as well as media outlets to raise awareness. Unfortunately, Tuvalu must continue to seek out migration outlets for their people, something the government has made a priority for decades, since neighbors such as New Zealand and Australia remain skeptical that Tuvalu could become submerged anytime soon and hesitate to consider schemes specifically on environmental migrants. Due to limited natural resources with which to trade on a global market, poor soil conditions, and few resources, Tuvalu is strapped financially, making economic development difficult, if not impossible. Tuvalu is caught between its desire for development and its ability to implement change that benefits them. Tuvalu's economy is small, fragmented, and highly vulnerable to external influences. Its economy can be characterized as mixed, with most of the market economic activities taking place on Funafuti, while the outer islands are based on subsistence living. Tuvalu relies heavily on outside development and through indirect taxation, from fishing license fees, from foreign fishing vessels, tongue twister, mainly from Taiwan, South Korea, and the United States, as well as the Tuvaluan Trust Fund, which primarily generates income from overseas investments. They generate a very modest income through stamp sales, copra export tax, and telephone line leases. Their main source of income, however, is a bit more unique. It's the profit the government has been able to derive from its internet domain name. In the 1990s, the government leased the right to the suffix .tv for Idealab, a California company, for $90 million over 12 years. There are also a variety of sales tax applied to a variety of goods and services throughout the nation, and island councils levy head taxes as well as land taxes based on territorial extent and soil fertility. Food security is an important issue facing Tuvalu. With Tuvalu's limited land on which to cultivate and very limited natural resources, environmental factors as well as imported goods play a role. Their most important cultivated plant is palaka, swamp taro, grown in large pits dug into the top layer of a freshwater lens and valued for its resistance to drought and high salinity. This crop is in danger because of frequent flooding from king tides, which have slowed the growth of the plants and in some cases even destroyed them, leaving a number of family plots unplanted. Important to their daily diet are coconuts, pandanus, bananas, and breadfruits, all of which are at risk because of the increasing salination of the soil. Fish was traditionally the main source of dietary protein and still is, in some cases, mainly on outer islands. Today, however, on Funafuti, imported rice and flour figure prominently into the daily diet, as well as canned and frozen meats. Weekly brewed tea has replaced their nutrient-rich coconut toddy. Houses, buildings, and associated infrastructure are replacing gardens, banana plantings, and other traditional crops. The island now imports 80% of their food. Relying on prepackaged goods in lieu of their native diets, Tuvaluans now have an issue that was once never a thought: garbage. Plastic, styrofoam, aluminum, tin cans, you name it, are causing not only landfill problems for a country that has no space for it, they're starting to get sick from it as well. During World War II, as fighting between the United States and Japan raged across the Pacific, the British government granted the United States military the use of its colony on what is now Tuvalu. In order for the military to reach their full wartime potential, they needed an airstrip. So large quantities of coral were dug up and carted off to be crushed and mixed for the tarmac. The gaping pits that were left behind across Funafuti, called boro pits, were never filled and eventually began to be used for refuse. With real estate at a premium, many nowadays build around and over the pits. During high tides and heavy rainfalls, these pits overflow, sending garbage and waste into the surrounding areas. Tuvalu government officials have reached out to the United States in hopes that they will contribute to helping them fill the pits. Other than an environmental study done by the Corps of Engineers, no help to date has been given. Tuvalu is not only threatened by rising sea level. Poor waste and wastewater management is adding to the effects of coastal erosion, increased flooding, storms, and changing rainfall patterns, all of which are affecting fish stocks and entire ecosystems across its 9 inhabited islands. As climate change is heating the atoll's shallow lagoons, the coral, the natural habitat of the reef fish, is bleaching and dying. On top of this, sewage water spills are increasingly causing algae blooms in the lagoon, killing the small reef fish and thereby threatening the lives of larger fish that depend on them. The subsistence fishermen report that they have had a harder time getting their daily fish for their families. According to interviews conducted by the fisheries department, the stories are all the same. They have to go further out in the lagoon than before. They have to fish longer to get the same amount of fish, and the fish they do catch are smaller than they used to be. The warming trends taking place in and around Tuvalu lead to higher evaporation rates. so that more precipitation is required to replenish the freshwater lens. When sea level rise, more seawater pushes against the freshwater lenses of atolls, so that groundwater gets too salty to drink. Since groundwater is not potable, rainfall collected by roof catchments is often the primary source of fresh water. This makes people very vulnerable to droughts. Poor families use the salty groundwater as an emergency water source in periods of drought. But today, groundwater is often contaminated with heavy metals from waste dumps and by fecal bacteria from leaky septic tanks. Health authorities on Tuvalu strongly recommend not to drink the well water, but in drought periods, these poor people and islanders far from public cisterns have no choice. Therefore, waterborne and water-related diseases like diarrhea and cholera occur. Not only are villagers forced to walk through the contaminated water to pursue their daily activities, small children can often be seen playing in and around the debris. Rising sea levels, migration, climate change, food security, clean water, septic, and garbage are just some of the environmental issues that Tuvaluans face on a daily basis. Things most of us take for granted. Tuvalu is literally in a tough spot. This island nation is working to strengthen awareness of climate issues and how it affects them personally on a global stage. What other countries do or do not do impacts them. The United States, once a climate change believer and participant concerned with lowering CO2 and other greenhouse emissions, is now a foe. Our current administration finds no value in institutions such as the EPA and is now a climate change denier. What we do here at home still impacts those living in Tuvalu as well as other countries around the globe. Below, I've provided a link to one man's mission to help Tuvalu. Although the narrator is difficult to understand at times, the message is clear. Take a few moments, as the video isn't very long, and see how an artist from Taiwan is using his art, mangroves, and QR codes to help bring attention to Tuvalu by offering a possible solution to one of their many problems. Thank you for your time.